Soundstripe.
Welcome into another episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the times of packed movie theaters and movie stores, and this is the podcast for you. I'm Caleb Suggs, and I'm joined with me by my co-host, Dakota Lowry.
I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you the difference between what you just said in the first take. No, honestly, I really can't. But what's up, guys?
Well, I'm not doing another take, so that's just staying.
You do a great job every time.
And also joining us today is Ernest Ferguson.
This is the second time I've shot this man while he's flying through the air.
Dad didn't get it.
So I had to debate. Okay, do I go with, because the one I wanted to go to, but it was two people. It was forgive me, I've broken the fourth commandment. You've killed somebody, and I was like, no, that's two people. I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Like I said, this was a tough one for me. I had a hard time picking.
I thought it was going to be you were safe in the house of the Lord. Man, there was one towards the end of the movie that I saw, and I was like, me and Claire were watching it, and we said, for sure that's going to be it.
How many sins could you have committed in 3 days?
Oh, man. I should have got that one. I must have zoned out on that one.
Well, we're back in another episode. This week we're doing The Mask of Zorro, 1998. I get it wrong every time I say it. I've said 96, 97, but it's 98. So, fun fact, the other day, I think I told Dakota this, but the other day I looked up how old a movie was if it was made in 1996, which happens to be the year I was born.
Caleb, come on.
It's 28 on both counts, by the way.
I'm glad your math skills are up there.
Is this why you're the news reporter writer? The news reporter.
I've never been the mathematician.
A wordsmith either.
I was looking for the word.
Oh, this is sad that we're coming together though. We just did Star Wars. And then the passing of James Earl Jones. That was,
yeah.
I'm like, one of the funny stories, and I think we may have sent this to each other, I don't know, about how Carrie Fisher and James Earl Jones never ever met each other. The first time they met each other was on an episode of Big Bang Theory.
Yes.
Because he always did the voice, and she never met him. I thought that was just weird.
I know it sounds really weird, but I always have this really weird coincidence in my life where it's like the first time that I interact with something like that's extremely popular, like something like this happens. This is the first time that I've ever sat down and watched the Star Wars movie, and then the next week James Earl Jones dies. But for another example of this is last year, my wife and I went on a cruise that ported out of Miami, and I found this nice little farmers market down there that sold cinnamon rolls. We went there, we had the cinnamon rolls, they were great, cool. And then I get on Reddit for Miami that week, and the owner was shot and killed while we were in Miami. And I'm like, it seems like there's weird coincidences like that happen around me often.
Well, it's not good for a lot of actors since we're going to be reviewing a bunch of old movies that he's never seen.
Yeah. I don't watch old movies for the safety of the actors. I'm really just watching out for them and their fate.
Well, so Anthony Hopkins better watch out.
Yeah.
So here's a question to kind of tie both movies in together for y'all. Okay, so Star Wars and The Mask of Zorro.
I'm very interested to see how you're going to tie in a movie about space.
So
it takes place a long far.
Oh no, I die 100% time
into a movie that took place in 1821.
Here's the question: if Star Wars was filmed in the late 90s, could Antonio Banderas been Han Solo?
Mm.
I mean,
don't feel
because
I'm sure he could
a
be. I
sarcastic
don't think
rogue
he
that
would.
I mean, to me, I'm like again, the heavy Spanish accent is it would probably make it a little more difficult, but someone that could play the rogue, that can do comedy, that can do serious stuff. That's one thing I started watching this. I was like, man, I mean, not saying he'd do a great job, but I mean, I could see him playing that part.
So you're talking
Just
about
because
a guy that could be a rogue that can do funny, serious, and the movie was made in the '90s. So Tom Cruise.
it would show me what funny Tom Cruise did.
Yeah, I don't think Tom Cruise has done like comedy stuff.
And he's not a rogue either. I mean, the only rogue movie that Tom Cruise did was what's the one with Jamie Foxx?
Tom Cruise plays the bad boy that doesn't live by the rules in every single movie. He could easily.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He's not the
rogue.
comedic relief though.
No, he is not.
Han Solo's not comedic relief either.
What? How? Oh my goodness! Sometimes I wonder what you see and what you watch. He is very much comedic.
There's
just the interactions between him and Leia are comedic.
Yeah, but that's not. He can be funny. He's not comedic relief.
No, and I didn't say he was. The comedy relief are the droids. No, I'm talking about comedic timing. Just like Antonio Banderas in this whole entire movie had real good comedic timing too. See, so I told you I could weave those two things together.
Sure, we'll go with that. Well, anyways,
to answer your question, first, I think he could have played it. I don't think it would have. I don't think the Han Solo character would have been as big as it is.
No, it is.
I think that Lord, the actor's name is slipping my mind now.
Harrison Ford.
I think Harrison Ford was like such a staple to that character that like I just like while he would have done it, and that I just don't think he would have done it as well as Harrison Ford did it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I was just thinking theoretically, if Star Wars was never made in the 70s and they tried to make it in the 90s, could an Antonio Banderas type of, more like Bruce Willis would probably be another one that could probably do that role, because you don't want somebody that's like big and swole, but you need that comedic timing, but someone that can also be serious, and somebody that again could be a little wily.
Mm-hmm.
So also is this a Western that we're watching?
Technically it is. It takes place in America.
Because we have for y'all that don't know, we have a spreadsheet that kind of has our movies, has different things on it, and I tried to type in the genre on it, and it said Western, and I was like, huh. I mean, yeah, it is a Western, but I was like, it never popped in my head.
I guess so, but I don't.
By the letter of the law, yes, but it's more, I guess, just an action adventure movie or an adventure movie, I guess.
Drama or whatever action
adventure. It ain't a drama. This ain't a drama.
I didn't mean drama. I mean, it has drama. But anyways, yes, The Mask of Zorro. My pick for this week. I have no idea why I picked this, but I just decided to go. It's been a while since I've seen it. I grew up watching this movie multiple times. To me, like, it's one of those movies. Is it going to come in my top 10 or top 20 even? Probably not, but I've probably seen it as much as any movie that I would have in my top 10. It's just one of those, those movies you just have where like, that's a good movie. I can sit and watch this again. It's rewatchable.
Yeah, and it's got, like I said, I think, Catherine Zeta-Jones and Antonio Banderas, I think, there was real good chemistry between the two, but they also played their roles really well, I thought. It was enjoyable. And I'm trying to think of something about, there's something about Antonio Banderas that I enjoy watching him in movies. I really do. Now, again, is he in great movies all the time? No, but I like how the characters he plays and how he plays them.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know I've been quiet for a second. I'm going back to the genre thing. When I was watching this movie, I keep IMDb pulled up while I'm watching movies because I like to look at characters and what other movies they played in and stuff. This movie is under the category of swashbuckler,
Swashbuckling.
which was the
So,
first time I'd ever heard of it.
Because it's got swords. That's why.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
I think when I think swashbuckling, I think pirates, not
Yeah.
just.
Well, I mean, the term referring to flamboyant and daring swordsmen features narrative centered around heroic and dashing characters known for their skill in swordplay and their chivalrous actions.
The Princess Bride was a swashbuckling movie.
It is. From my watch list, The Princess Bride and The Mask of Zorro are the two swashbuckling movies that I've seen.
That's part of how we got here. You know, we watched Princess Bride with great value Zorro, and so now it's time to watch actual Zorro.
That makes so much more sense.
So actually, Zorro is a carbon copy of The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
No, because Zorro came first. Zorro's been around for
Zorro has been around a while.
Zorro's been around, like the Lone, probably not as old as the Lone Ranger, but it's been around for a while. Now, granted, there's not I don't know what a lot of the older movies, but they had old movies that had a TV show in the 90s, I think.
Oh, 1919 American Pulp Fiction. So
really?
I didn't realize it was that old.
That
man. I didn't realize it was that old either, but that's 1919. So
well,
there you go.
Growing up, and I've always loved hero type, and it's not just superheroes like comic books, but heroes in general, masked figures. And so growing up, I watched Zorro and I watched the Lone Ranger, and I remember I had movies of the Lone Ranger and Zorro that. And I pushed the good together because to me they were like synonymous with each other. They were kind of similar. Obviously Lone Ranger was more Western than an actual Western, but and I had old movies of because they made and so. But yeah, 1919. I didn't realize it went back that far. I knew Lone Ranger did. I didn't realize that Zorro did.
Another thing I thought was interesting about the start of this movie, again, being from Texas, and I hear the name Santa Anna, and I'm like, oh, that's the bad guy that that the Texans defeated. And I'm like, oh, wait, Santa Anna helped run the Spaniards out of Mexico. I was like, oh, okay. It was interesting for me as being a Texan hearing Santa Anna's name and not associating it with Texas independence.
Oh, I think
because he fell asleep and we captured him.
Yeah, something like that. Well, anyways, The Mask of Zorro is a 1998 American Western swashbuckler film based on the fictional character Zorro by Johnston McCulley. It was directed by Martin Campbell and stars Antonio Banderas, Anthony Hopkins, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Stuart Wilson. The film features the original Zorro, Don Diego de la Vega, escaping from prison to find his long-lost daughter and avenge the death of his wife at the hands of the corrupt governor Rafael Montero. He is aided by a successor who is pursuing his own vendetta against the governor's right-hand man while falling in love with de la Vega's daughter. This movie was released July 17, 1998. It grossed $250.3 million on a budget of $95 million. And it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of, I believe, 84%, although I do not currently have that pulled up, but I think that's correct.
84.
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, a solid movie. Obviously, it did way better in the box office than I thought. And,
it was one of the top 10 in that year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it did did really well. Not like exceptionally well, but pretty good, especially for a movie about 1800s in a time period where it was that you see a lot of those movies. And Star had a pretty good cast. Obviously, Ernie's really likes Catherine Zeta-Jones. He's mentioned that multiple times.
No, you have purposely avoided mentioning it. That's my thing, and I'm like, okay, sure, Jan.
Well, when I think of this movie, I think Anthony Hopkins. I really do.
Which is wow to me.
Yeah, I don't.
I really like Anthony Hopkins as an actor. And this is probably one of my favorite movies to watch him in. It's not his best movie, but he really pulls the movie together. I think that's a big reason why the sequel was not nearly as successful.
Yeah. What I
Was he
thought
not
was
in the
interesting.
sequel?
No, he's not.
No.
Because
I didn't know that.
spoiler alert, he dies in this movie.
Touche. Okay. Touche.
I'm starting to wonder if you watched the movie, Dakota.
Yes, I watched the movie. Calm down.
Yes, I mean it may be a Pulp Fiction movie, but it's not a comic book movie where people always come back. But I thought
You're
it was
right.
interesting. What this originally was slated with Steven Spielberg, and I read that like Tom Cruise was supposed to be the lead, which that's a completely different movie if that ever happened.
Oh yeah.
But the interesting thing I thought was the idea of the director of Robert Rodriguez, because Robert Rodriguez and Antonio Banderas had already done a movie together called Desperado, or they were about to do Desperado. I can't remember which order it was, but if you've never seen Desperado, with Selma Hayek and Antonio Banderas, man, that's a fantastic movie to watch. And so it would have been, I think, especially with Rodriguez doing it, I think it's a darker, more violent film. Um, they said that the opening scene was already written by Spielberg, uh, and so that's again. Right, again, you see the parents showing or stories about parents and things like that, or a father figure, which is big for a Spielberg movie. So it would have been really interesting to see, how a different of a movie if it would have been. And if Tom Cruise is in this, I'm sorry. That would have been as bad as Kevin Costner being English Robin Hood, to have Tom Cruise be Mexican hero Zorro.
Yeah,
I
as
don't
much
see
as I
Tom
love
Cruise
Tom,
doing this.
as much as I love Tom Cruise and I like him probably a lot more than anybody else I know, this is not his movie. And also, Desperado came out in 1995.
Okay, so it did come out beforehand.
But I think I don't think this movie needed to have a darker tone because, like I said,
No.
I growing up, Zorro is, he's not a superhero like a comic, but but he's still, he's got the mask and stuff. So you're gonna have kids watching this, and so and obviously I didn't watch it when I was really young, but I watched it when I was semi young, probably 10 or so, for the first time. So you're gonna have that age, possibly watching this. You don't want it to be too dark, and because I don't think Zorro, the character Zorro, is not dark. So I think this movie was perfect. As far as that goes, perfect. And obviously it's PG-13, and it's not completely meant. It's like a kids movie. Like Princess Bride, but it's still not. It's not too dark for kids, and I think that was important.
Yeah, I think in comic book lore, this is more of a Superman character and not a Batman character. Where again, he is a good guy, or even Robin Hood, a good guy that may be doing some nefarious stuff, but he's not a bad individual. He's not necessarily a truly flawed individual, and he doesn't do dark things. He didn't go out to harm people, even though he did kill a lot of people in this movie. But it's not a dark character, like you said. And again, it would have been a completely different movie if it would have been dark, and I don't think it would have been as enjoyable as it was if it would have been dark too.
Even the deaths they're not, I don't want to say cheesy, but they're not like people are dying.
It's
but
not
it's
graphic,
yeah, it's not.
I mean, it's not blood spraying everywhere, guts hanging out.
I guess the most dramatic death would have been Alejandro's brother being decapitated.
Yeah, but you don't even see it.
But you don't see it though. But yeah. I mean, it goes to what you're saying that the deaths were not. Most of them were they got stabbed with the saber or the sword, and that's it. There wasn't really anything huge. Again, like I said, that was the only real death that would make you kind of make somebody recoil a little bit, even though they didn't show it, but you knew what happened to it, especially later on. What happened to it, which is different altogether too.
Well, see, I the whole time I was watching this, I kind of got like and forgive me if I say this wrong, but like a Pirates of Caribbean vibe.
Dude,
we're like Caribbean, whatever. I knew it.
If it's Pirates of the it's Caribbean unless it's Pirates of the Caribbean. That's all I say it.
Whatever.
So that means it's right. But, it depends on where you're from, how you say it. Is it Louisiana or Louisiana?
Yeah.
Is it Missouri or Missouri?
Anyway, but that's definitely the
Dakota,
vibe
you
that I
can
got
say it
to it.
any way you want to say it, unless it's wrong.
Thank you, Ferg. Thank you.
And it might have been wrong, but that's okay.
I have no clue. But that is definitely the vibe that I got from this. Like I've definitely got like a Jack Sparrow kind of like accidentally getting himself out of situations,
Yes.
accidentally, putting himself into situations, losing his sword, but still like being kind of dexterous and light on his feet and able to think his way out of things like right on the spot. And but still like kind of like you said, having these kind of heavy topics that they're talking about, of like, there's the whole mine and the whole slavery thing and all this stuff that's going on, but still kind of having a very light tone to the movie. And that's kind of what I was thinking about the whole time is like, this is a very, it kind of gives me the same vibe, the same thought process of like the Pirates movies tries to portray as well.
That's why I think action adventure is the best terminology, I think, for this, because I think you nailed it. I think the Pirates of the Caribbean is exactly this and Zorro are in the same family as far as genre type of, or how to view it type of thing.
This is going to be a long episode.
Yeah, we're already 20 minutes in.
Well, just because Dakota says it's sword, and I absolutely cannot stand that. He's already said it like 5 times.
I didn't realize that I said it.
You
sword? No, I say sword.
You don't. You say sword.
My apologies. I don't intentionally say it.
I know. I just there's people that say it like that. It's like,
don't let him shame you like that again. He's shamed you twice.
Look, twice. 2 different words here. He's already shamed me for being late. Well, that's 3 times.
Now that's earned. So I mean,
that is well deserved. I'll give you that one. But the other 2.
Look, yeah, we're gonna act like you never shamed me over stuff. Anyways, I guess 20 minutes in, we should probably actually get into the movie now. So,
probably.
In 1821, masked swordsman Zorro defends the commoners of Las Californias from Spain's soldiers. Don Rafael Montero, Las California's corrupt governor, sets a trap for Zorro at the public execution of 3 peasants. Zorro stops the execution, and Montero's soldiers are thwarted by 2 young brothers, Alejandro and Joaquin Murrieta. Zorro fights the remaining soldiers and thanks the brothers by giving Joaquin a medallion. Don Rafael deduces that the nobleman Don Diego de la Vega is Zorro and attempts to arrest him at his home. A sword fight begins, a fire breaks out, and De La Vega's wife Esperanza, whom Montero coveted, is murdered as a result. While the mansion burns, Montero takes Diego's infant daughter Elena as his own before sending De La Vega to an underground prison and returning to Spain. So, and you kind of mentioned, I think you mentioned that Spielberg had already wrote the opening scene, which is an interesting fact that I wasn't aware of, but a lot happens in this kind of opening. We see the Zorro that's not actually the Zorro, that we're gonna, come to know later in the movie, but, it kind of sets the stage, and it's, historical, as far as Santa Anna, driving out the Spaniards, and but we get, I always thought it was funny, we get this guy, it kind of builds up the not tension, what's the word for it? Do a feud between Zorro and Montero, because he's pulled, he's Santa Anna is coming, but he's remaining behind because he just has to capture Zorro, and he's pulled 3 random peasants. I love the time when the guy asks, "Who are these 3 men that you would risk your life to have killed?" And he's like, "Who are they? No idea."
That's why that was good.
But that just goes. I mean, he would he would risk his own life, and he has no problem risking the life of innocent people as long as he captures this man. And then we go to the house later, and he finds out who Zorro really is, and he really builds himself up as a great villain by killing. Well, obviously he didn't kill his wife, but getting his wife killed in the process, and then taking his daughter while he sends the dude to prison. I mean, that's some villainous stuff right there.
As a father, that was painful to watch. To know, I'm keeping you alive, so that way I am raising your daughter as my own. And that was painful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so how didn't the brothers get caught? They literally pushed that whatever that I don't know what that concrete whatever thing on the men. I mean,
I don't know. Zorro got up there pretty fast. I'm
That's
more
what I
He
mean.
sure did, yeah.
Boy, and I tell you what, for later on, they got me. I forgot that it wasn't Alejandro or Antonio Banderas' character that did not receive the medallion. I thought for watching, I thought that was Antonio Banderas' character
Yeah.
as a child that got the medallion. And so another question is, how did Montero know that Don Diego, I can't remember his name, was
well.
Zorro?
I don't know. You see him when he jumps up into the balcony and he has a sword in his face. You kind of see him get this look like in his face, like he just realizes it. So I don't know if it's
Okay.
just like something he says, because obviously he's met this man Diego before because he goes, to his house, and Diego's like, "Oh, the governor in our mansion. You'll stay for dinner." So obviously they've met before. Well, I know they've met before because he covets his wife.
Yeah.
So clearly, I mean, and it's one of those things like, mask. Obviously, it's not like Green Lantern where you just have a mask that's covering your cheekbones and your eyes. But still, it's like, okay, if you're really that close to someone that on a personal level, like, do you think you would be able to, especially when they're talking to you, you would feel like you would probably know them. So, I guess, but you do see the moment he realizes who it is.
Okay,
Now,
I missed that. Then I'll take that.
I definitely missed that.
You see, just go back and watch, and like when he's got his sword pointed in his face, you see like this moment in his face where like it's very subtle, but you kind of see where he realizes who it is. Now, I don't know what it is that tips it off. Is it something he says? Is it his voice? Or I don't know, but you do kind of see that.
Okay, I'll take that. And what is your earliest memory as a child?
What is my earliest of Zorro, or just earliest memory?
As a child, period, because I can't remember Catherine Zeta-Jones' character. She's going to remember the smell of those flowers and the song that he sang at that age when she was still in the crib.
I don't think it's necessarily that she remembered it, but it was just like it was familiar. I think it was just like, I think when she was talking to him, the voice was familiar.
I don't know.
Also, that's probably. I think the flower thing was the interaction with the nanny in the market. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
I don't think it was necessarily that she remembered it.
Well, when she comes back to the shores later, like as an adult, they hand her the flower, and she's like, "I know the scent," and they're like,
yes.
"You've never." This flower only. So I don't know. I probably wouldn't remember a scent. I mean, but it's a movie, so I guess that's not. Is it probably realistic? No, but is it that far fetched? Probably not.
No.
And I mean, the thing is,
too hung up on the details, Ernest.
Well, that's I'm a detail oriented person. Said never.
I will say one thing that we're kind of, I think, passing over here is how freaking cool was that fireplace in Zorro's house.
Yeah, I mean that's some great secret lair technology for it to be 1821.
Yeah, that's literally what I was thinking. I was like, dude, like you have a hydraulic fireplace that's just moving out of the way and opening up in the 1800s. Like,
man, what happened to his horse with the place burning down? Did it,
It died. I mean,
it's Tornado, man. He got away.
He's glue or dog food. That's one of the two. That's what he is.
On that note, I'm moving
on. Oh man, I tell you,
I like horses. Just in case somebody wants to know that I do like horses.
Let me tell you, my link to Star Wars with this, and this is in my notes that I have written down here, was that these soldiers shoot about as well as stormtroopers do.
Yeah, he took out like at least 10 guys with the sword fight, and they couldn't shoot to save their lives either. I'm like, man, I know Zorro is one bad mamma jamma, but I mean they were horrible.
Mm-hmm. At least with those, they're not blasters. With those guns, they only get one shot before they got to take 20 minutes to reload.
Got to get the black powder back out again.
There were a few times. Throughout this movie that I was like, man, there's some pretty decent shots, like especially right there at the end when they were at the mine. And I think
the Montero was like shooting with that. He was.
Yeah, I was like, dude, you're pretty spot on. I mean, I'll give you from the distance he was shooting at, and I mean, only missing by like a foot to the right. Like, I'll give it to you,
We can't forget in the opening scene, the opening thing in the square either, when Zorro's riding off and we get the Violet Padre just elbowing the soldier.
Yeah.
Swag. He just throws that elbow out.
Uh,
Uh,
well,
I did like when he comes back. I can't remember what he said, but he was all he knew that they've been paid to be there or whatever, and he wants to be he's a welcoming in, and he was just like, just I don't care what you think of me, I'm back type of thing. It was I liked how they brought it, because again, that they did a great job of making Montero a bad guy,
Oh
from
yeah.
what he did to Zorro and taking the daughter, to his entrance coming back to
Mm-hmm.
Mexico too. That was that was good.
Mm-hmm.
well, 20 years later, in 1841, Alejandro and Joaquin are bandits running a scam to collect the bounty on their hands and steal a strong box. They, however, are caught by Captain Harrison Love, Montero's new American right-hand man. Alejandro runs away while Joaquin shoots himself to avoid being captured by Captain Love. Meanwhile, Montero returns to California with the now adult Elena. Because of Montero, Elena believes that her mother died in childbirth and that he is her father.
One thing I don't
So
like about Wikipedia is it doesn't mention Three Finger Jack at all.
yeah, it does. Yeah, I don't get that.
Well, the wanted posters didn't think Jack was reported either, even
That
though
is
he
true.
came up with the idea to kidnap the mayor from his own outhouse.
And he was the guy that got shot twice flying through the air too.
Sure was.
But
Um,
anyways,
so
cool
fun.
scene.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So fun historical fact about this: Harrison Love's character is based on the actual like captain in the American Army,
Hmm.
and the two people like the three finger Jack. If actually you scroll down on Wikipedia, the Wikipedia page here down to historical references, it talks about it here that the capture of Marietta's right man, Three Finger Jack by Love was also historical. But it gives his actual name and stuff like that.
So
And he actually did cut his head off and like preserve him and stuff like that. The actual
okay, that
Harrison
makes
Love
a
did.
little more sense, because one of the questions I had about it is, why was he so hell bent getting Alejandro? I didn't under.
Hmm.
That's one of those things that didn't explain, because I was like, okay, you've got a guy's pickled head and pickled hand,
Hmm.
with you, and you're searching for this third one. And if it goes back to the historical ties of the original character, then that makes a lot of sense. But it was
Well,
one
see
of those
now,
things when he showed the head in the jar at the towards the end, I'm like, why? I mean, unless, I mean, I know you're a total psychopath, but I didn't understand. It didn't make sense to me.
no.
And then
Well,
now have it's probably a cutting room floor type of thing, and it makes more sense to me now.
well, his
Well, now
desire
saying,
to
go ahead.
to his desire to get Alejandro is the fact that he's built a reputation as the guy that always gets his man, and
Yeah.
so by Alejandro escaping, that hurts his reputation. I mean, you see it when Alejandro goes undercover at the party later. He kind of makes jest at him because he wasn't able to capture him, and you see how
Hmm.
much that affects him.
Go to confession.
According, and this is according to this Wikipedia page here, that um, it's Joaquin, Marietta, and then Three Finger Jack were real historical characters, but Alejandro was that's the fictional character made up for this movie specifically. But yeah,
Well,
Harrison Love was a California Ranger, is what he was.
this to go back to the actual scene. This is a pretty good scene. We get obviously
Oh
older
yeah.
Alejandro Joaquin, and we get some comedy. Because we get the part where I thought it was funny when they reveal that they're not actually tied up, and he's like, "I thought you were tied up," and then that's because you're stupid. And then and it was, so we get kind of the comedy and kind of like the Robin Hood type characters, and then it gets serious really fast when
It does.
when they get which they don't get very far before they meet Captain Love, and obviously Joaquin kills himself to avoid capture and tells Alejandro to run away, who runs away doesn't seem very far because he can still see, and he's hiding in bushes that
No.
are not very tall. So a professional soldier with an army right there, I feel like he probably could have captured him, but that's neither here nor there.
I also like the callback later on in the movie when Love and Alejandro or Zorro were fighting, And he told him that he already doing better than his brother because his brother would have killed himself already. I was like, ooh, man,
Yeah.
that's a good dig right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we get that. So we obviously now we get now we learn of what Alejandro's role in the movie is going to be. That revenge factor and stuff, and what kind of leads him to become Zorro. So then we go to the prison where we meet who was actual Zorro. And they're in the prison. He's in Montero searching for them, and he said if anybody was Zorro, and all these people start volunteering that they were Zorro. I did think it was funny. The black guy was like, "I'm Zorro," and I'm like, I don't think he's gonna fall for that one.
Which in the one guy that actually looks like him, he passed by, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
To me, if you stole a guy's child and you wanted to steal a guy's wife, 20 years later, you could probably still point him out.
A long beard and a little bandana thing on your face is not gonna. I feel like you could probably still know. I knew who it was, and I didn't personally know the guy.
Yeah.
Now, he did have the second best throat crunch, only to be outdone by Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, who actually ripped the whole entire throat out. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Just the little, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, you've been sitting there 20 years idle, but your hand still might be tough as nails.
Punching rocks every day, man. Got to keep the fist strength up.
Well, Montero's reappearance motivates Diego to escape captivity. He then encounters Alejandro getting drunk and recognizes the medallion. He agrees to make Alejandro his protege in order for them to battle their respective enemies, Montero and Love. Alejandro agrees to undergo Diego's training regimen in Zorro's secret lair underneath the ruins of his family estate to be able to take revenge. In addition, Alejandro seeks to succeed Diego as Zorro while still being trained. Alejandro steals a stallion resembling Zorro's steed Tornado from a garrison. Diego scolds Alejandro, asserting that Zorro was a servant of the people, not a thief or a seeker of fame. He instructs Alejandro to gain Montero's trust and acquire charm instead.
So his escape, man.
What?
Like his whole escape from prison. I know that they like sum it up in half a sentence, but
yeah,
I think the big thing that stood out to me was like, didn't he get buried alive?
Buried alive. Yes. Yeah. No, thank you. I'll pass.
No.
Yeah.
I'm staying in prison. Yeah.
Well, at least they didn't bury him very deep.
Yeah, at least they didn't bury him very deep. How convenient. How thoughtful of them. But golly, man, I saw that and I was like, there's no way. Like, I don't see how you could carry a person that far and think he's dead. Like, how do you not notice that somebody's body is still warm, not getting stiff, and is still breathing?
Again, my question also is one of the jailers that's locked up. How long before he's discovered, and how long if he's let out, or if he gets shot too? That would be like, oops, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the good thing about the training. Or you have the training montage, but then when they first meet also is both times Don Diego able to disarm Alejandro. Like wrapping his hands with the stick to make him drop the sword. And it's just it's one of those things where again it goes back to that you can't fight in anger type of thing. And just the seriousness that Alejandro has, like come on, then the sword comes out, it gets knocked out of his hand. He's like, oh.
Yeah, I mean this like the relationship between Diego and Alejandro is definitely the best part of the movie. It starts with them, when they meet, and he there was some great quotes that I thought you might use, like you would have fought very bravely and died very quickly. Or there was one about there's a saying. What was it? There's a saying that if a people needs a master, the master will appear, or something like that. I don't know, but the best part was he was like, I've never lost a fight. And he said, except to a crippled old man.
And for 20 years being untouched, Zorro's secret lair was very well taken care of too.
He's also still a very good
Tornado was doing before he died.
There you go. He's also still a very good and skilled swordsman after
Hey,
20 years.
it's like riding a bike. It never goes away. I guess I don't know. I've never been trained in
Yeah,
swordsmanship.
yeah. I've never done fencing before in my entire life, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
couldn't tell you, but the drunk Alejandro, like I get it. Okay, I don't feel like it would be that hard to defeat a drunk Alejandro in swordplay, but when he's sober, shaves your beard and you get your power back. Like
He had to train first. Okay, he gets his sword out and he's like, "Do you know how to use that thing?" He's like, "Yeah, the pointy end goes into the other guy."
Which, yeah, again, I like when we go to the whole entire thing of Alejandro stealing the stallion too. Just that was a fun little scene of comedy of errors where
hmm
how much of it was skill and how much of it was luck type of thing.
Yes.
Yep.
For him to get the stallion. I mean, especially the stallion was like, "I'm not going, get off me" type of thing.
Yeah, I
hmm
mean, there's so much in that that's like, okay, he's gotten way more skill, but he's still not ready to be Zorro, and it's not just
Yeah.
Yeah,
him not understanding what Zorro is, but I mean, just his fighting, and it's very more, like you said, clumsy and clunky, and getting lucky a few times, and
hmm
it's not the one of a seasoned veteran you feel like is going to go in there and fight, 20 soldiers like
Yeah.
a regular Zorro would.
but
But
this is also.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry. No, you
No,
go. No,
no, I
you go.
refuse. I refuse. Nose
Well, this
goes.
is so. This is also that scene at the end of the scene was the first time that we had Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones together.
Yeah, I was about
Correct.
to say.
Again, they worked really good with each other. Fire coming out of both of them, but just the way she was talking, he was like not listening. Then all of a sudden, he starts talking about lust is a good thing, and she was like, like what? I've never heard a priest talk like this. It's just
What,
it was a
was this
good
the priest?
Yeah, it was
No,
so
he was
after he still.
This was in the stables, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
but this was no. So after he steals the horse, he goes and hides in the
in the
confession
church.
booth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
And
That's
then
right.
she comes to confess because she hasn't confessed in 3 days. It's like,
yeah.
I'm gonna
Man,
get
my whole thing with it though is like she just met the guy, and
Well, she
you
had
don't even know what he
lustful
looks like,
thoughts.
and you just having lustful thoughts over the dude.
well, if you're a sheltered woman, I guess in these times, I don't
I
know.
mean, I get it, but it's like I'm sorry, but if I go somewhere in my house and there's a guy with a mask on stealing a horse, and I don't know who he is, like I'm not going to get googly eyes at him.
Okay,
I'm going
so
to call
let's
the
let's
guards.
No, but
we're,
no,
we're, we're
you're
we'll
talking
keep
about.
we'll keep this PG, but we all know she was a certain kind of emotion that she needed
Okay,
something.
sucks.
I
Okay,
mean,
sucks.
She was a flutter. And again, I mean, how often was she protected? And now all of a sudden
Yeah,
something exciting happened, and and again he sweet talked her also. So I mean, it's
yeah, that is true.
I think you have to give that again. You're looking at this also in a 2000s era, whenever this is the 1800s, where
Yeah.
again women were truly remember showing your ankles was woo, that was
hmm
bad, so again you have to take that into effect also, so that I think that is I I don't find that because you can see that in like a lot of Middle Ages movies or things of that nature where you know you've had these people that have been kind of locked up their entire life. Now all of a sudden something exciting happens, and they said that that he Don Diego said he's like her mother. She's like her mother. She wasn't fragile. She wanted an adventure also.
Yeah,
And so this is kind of the adventure part of it. Just kind of, I mean, kind of heated her up.
I could see that one. There is one more thing that takes place kind of in this whole chain of events. This is after when Alejandro gets back to the Zorro's mansion. Was the Diego sitting there whipping out the flames on the candle?
Yeah,
I was like that. To me, I was like that. That's kind of cool. That's a skill that I probably wish I had. Like,
yeah,
using a bullwhip is one of those things where you can practice with a lot of things and you won't hurt yourself. You practice with a bullwhip wrong, you
yep,
can probably hurt
yep.
yourself real fast.
I don't really know where the whip comes from. As far as I don't know, I feel like that's always kind of random. Like he's just a swordsman that also happens to be extremely good with a whip and acrobatic. The acrobats. I mean, that's just kind of a thing with. I don't know if that's a thing with Zorro, but apparently that's
Well,
where
but
he.
but you also have the. I mean, but if you look at his training though, all the ropes that he did and all that kind of stuff like that, he was
Hmm.
swinging around. So that at least explains. There's nothing that explains the bullet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Uh,
but the athleticism and stuff like that, with he's practicing on a rope, at least they have that in the movie where hey, he is practicing that stuff, and so there it could be learned.
at least his acrobatics are used in a resourceful way. It's not like Princess Bride where he just throws a sword down and does a flip to prove that he can do a flip.
Yeah.
That is true.
There were
That's
I don't know.
also
There were a couple of scenarios in here where he jumps off the top of the building, and I'm like, you'd have broke your legs.
yeah.
No,
And Princess
not
Bride is
Zorro.
also a children's book too, so
Yeah,
you're
Not
supposed to do stuff like that.
not Zorro. Zorro cannot break his legs.
No,
yeah.
But
haha! I'll just go into the water and heal myself.
well, Alejandro disguises himself as a visiting nobleman named Don Alejandro de Castillo y Garcia, with Diego disguising himself as his servant Bernardo, and attends a party at Montero's hacienda. There, he earns Elena's admiration and enough of Montero's trust to be invited to a secret meeting between noblemen. Montero hints at a plan to retake California for the Dons and proclaim it as an independent republic by buying it from General Santa Anna, who needs money for the upcoming Mexican American War. So, um, yeah, how good of a teacher is Diego? Because his whole like transformation into a nobleman, um, is pretty
Pretty.
impressive.
He learns charm pretty quick.
Yeah.
Not only charm, he learns how to do this exotic dance, and you cannot tell me that he already knew how to do this.
No, I don't.
Not
Well,
You,
no. I can.
no,
I
you're
can
born
give
with
that
that, baby. You're born with that.
in a. Well, I don't know. In a Spanish household, and Lord, I only know this because I'm taking Spanish 101. It's a pretty
okay,
learning how to dance and knowing these dances about that isn't that far fetched.
but he grew up without parents. He grew up in definitely a life where he was more of a not in a proper household. I mean, he grew up without
So
parents. He grew up to be a bandit. I don't think he's receiving proper instruction on traditional, Spanish or Spanish, whatever you call it.
now remember, hey, Montero apologized to him for Elena's dancing. So
Yeah.
the dance may be closer to how Alejandro grew up than, because you look at everybody was
Hmm.
watching them because everybody was formally dancing. This was not formal dancing.
Hmm.
This would be. I mean, this
More
is
like street dancing. More like
it's what those kids are doing nowadays,
yeah.
type of thing. And so it was a little bit out there. So, and hey man, Antonio Banderas can dance, son. I mean, there ain't no need to hide that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole party.
Uh,
So we get him being, going undercover. We get Anthony Hopkins, James bonding it up, going through the mansion. Oh, with his
Oh,
great.
you also get his great comment to Love about I heard about you trying to catch the bandit the other night.
Yeah.
I heard we don't have to worry about anything but trying to get confessional
yeah,
or whatever it was.
Yeah, and you see in there, even though he's trying to be undercover, he can't help but take shots at
Oh
Love.
yeah.
So, but I mean, I feel like it would be tough to try to act cordial with someone that killed your brother.
they also
Oh,
did a good job of being able to explain how Alejandro would be able to weasel his way in. His character would be able to weasel his way in
hmm
by saying that his family was close to the crown and stuff like that. Where
hmm
Montero thought he was out of favor, because I mean it's kind of hard to believe. Oh, a newcomer shows up. Oh yeah, come on, we're going to show you these grand plans, even though you're not one of the people I
hmm
left the land to. But explaining that he has some sway because of the royal family, that made a lot more sense. That was a good writing choice, I thought.
And
Yeah,
didn't he say when he said that his name was Don Alejandro that Montero responded and said that I've heard of that family or something like that.
Yeah, I could be wrong here, but I've always thought by the way he reacted, he was kind of like he was just saying that, because like, oh yeah, I've heard of them, but like really, he didn't really. Just the way he reacted, I could be wrong.
Okay. I think
He was
I read
trying
that
to.
wrong.
But just
He
trying
was
to
trying
out.
to.
Yeah,
He's trying to fake it to not. He's not sure about the guy, so he doesn't want to offend him if this guy's for real.
yeah.
So he
Yeah.
wants to do the courtesy. Oh yes, I've heard of that.
And look, I
Okay.
get the whole. I mean, they explain it well enough that it works about how Montero's a nobleman and he's not going to look a servant in the eye. But okay, that guy's standing. He's standing right there. There's no way you don't glance over, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
notice that
yeah,
that's
but
your mortal enemy.
look, he also didn't recognize him in the. He didn't recognize him in prison.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
but
feel
this
like
is closer to the way he would have
Yeah.
looked 20 years
yes. I
prior.
mean, he's more clean shaven now. Granted, his hair is not black; it's gray. But
Mm-hmm.
in the prison, he was wearing he was all a beard, super long, and he had a bandana covering half his face. I mean, this is
Didn't he have glasses on in this scene? Was it that
Yes.
that was the cover up?
it was the Superman
The
effect.
Superman, the Clark Kent type of cover up. Just put the glasses on. You'll be all right. Nobody will
That
look at
hides
you
it
now.
all.
Well,
That
and
hides
I
it
didn't
all.
realize. I was watching this with my dad. He says Alejandro's wearing a fake mustache in this. I didn't even.
Oh, he
Yes.
absolutely is.
I never
Yeah.
picked up on that.
Yeah.
I didn't
mustache
until
and
later
soul
on when he
patch.
takes it off. But yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. Yeah. Anyways, so Alejandro. Wait. No, I already read that one. Okay, so the next day. Okay, Montero takes Alejandro and the nobleman to El Dorado, a secret gold mine where peasants and prisoners are used for slave labor. The plan is to buy California from Santa Anna using gold, which appears from Spain, but is actually mined from his own land. Meanwhile, Diego uses the opportunity to become closer to Elena, still posing as Bernardo. He learns that Montero raised her, telling him that her mother died in childbirth. Later, Diego sends Alejandro, now Zorro, to steal Montero's map leading to the gold mine. Zorro duels Montero, Love, and their guards at the hacienda. When he escapes, Elena chases him, attempting to retrieve Montero's map. After a sensual sword duel, Zorro uses his sword to strip off her clothing and seduces her, leading to a passionate kiss before he flees.
A sensual sword duel.
I'm pretty sure I just
That's how
said.
we're gonna put it.
I'm pretty sure I just said sword when I read
You
that.
absolutely did. You absolutely did, Caleb.
You've look what you've done to me.
So here's my whole question about this whole thing, and I think this whole scene kind of goes into building the big bad evil guy, building Montero's character out to be the bad guy. I think if he had been doing this mining and stuff like this of this gold without the use of slavery, like actually hiring people to do the work for him, like I feel like that would have been, he could have easily got away with that and everybody kind of would have been more on board with it. Instead he's painted as this bad guy because he's using slaves to do this work for him and he's trying to cover it up and he doesn't care about their lives. And I think that kind of uses this whole, like you say, kind of uses this whole scene to build into that, making him that bad guy that nobody likes.
Yeah,
Especially the use of kids also.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely adds to it. But I think you also need to remember that, when he was in charge of it before Santa Anna ran him out, he was obviously very well unliked by the people. I mean, they really
so. I mean, that's you should, the whole entire setup and scene, of the gold mine, which I think was practical effects, which is pretty good. But again, that's where you start to see, Alejandro find his way of, this is what Zorro's meant to do, not just revenge.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was meant to do, especially after my man Three Finger comes down off that slide and gets blown away. I'm like, man, rest in peace, Three Finger Jack. There you are. Pour one out for my homies there. You see that, and that's where it all kind of comes. And then even more disturbing about Montero being a bag, not just stealing Elena, but then telling her that the mom died in childbirth. That's again, that just shows you what a bad guy he is.
But I mean, what other lies he going to feed her?
Yeah.
What do you tell her?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like, hey, your mother died in childbirth. while probably traumatizing to the kid, is probably the best way to explain a situation like that.
So we have the sword fight in the hacienda.
Oh, well,
Where he take.
Hold on. Before we go there, though,
Okay, go ahead.
The whole distraction with the giant flaming sea on the mountain is a great visual in this
That
movie.
was a good visual.
It was a good visual.
It is one of my favorite parts of the movie when they come around, and I thought it was really cool. When you see it, you instantly see the fear in Montero, even though it's not the same guy. I mean, just seeing that sign. I mean, he even says
the ghost
he's
has
like,
come back.
yeah, like he's like, it's just one man. He's like, it's not one man, it's Zorro. Like, so that's really cool. Something that they added to that. But go ahead, like you said, with the sword fight.
Well, I mean, you see a good sword fight because Montero showed earlier in his younger days he was a good swordsman. Because he matched wits with Diego early on, and then just the 1-on-2 matchup with Montero and I think was it Love? Is that what his name was?
Yeah.
And then Love, and then also Alejandro going at it. I thought those were pretty good scenes. And then again, his ability to escape. The only cheesy part was when the map came down and the guys were like, "Oh, I can't get away from the map now." And then, why in the world at night was Elena in the stables? Not dressed to ride. She was just in the stables.
Do you think she heard the scuffle going on?
I think it was more of she just heard.
So she went to the stables?
Well, I don't know.
That's where she saw him in the first time. That's where she met the Zorro the first time.
So
I think both of y'all are skipping over something entirely important here.
Well,
this is where Love sits down and shows him the head, and then he drinks the head water.
Yeah, well,
but the head, whatever it is, in there. Okay.
Well, I mean, technically, we had talked about it earlier. So, but yeah, I mean, look.
Oh, see, I thought it was still coming on. Oh, yeah, that's. Yeah, when he pulled the head out and threw it on the desk, I was like, dude, you're psycho.
Yeah. And then he offers him a cup, and he he takes a cup of it and drinks it. I can only imagine what diseases have been festering in there for 20 years.
Well, it's not been 20 years since the head's been in there.
No, well, yeah, I guess you're right.
But
you're
still right.
Still,
it's disgusting. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I guess
he's been drinking out of it every day, so he's impervious to whatever it is.
I guess that's a good way to keep your cover. Like, hey, this is not my brother. If I'm just going to drink his head water.
I don't care if it was my brother or not. No, I'm not doing it.
A nobleman wouldn't have done it anyways.
Exactly.
So a nobleman would have been offended by it, But at that point in time, they both knew.
Was it? Yeah.
And this is going to lead us to. I don't want to get into it right now. I'll talk about it later. But there's something that I always, every time I watch this movie, I'm still confused by. But we'll get into that later. So going back into the mansion, it's really cool. Obviously, you get to see him really don Zorro the mask for the first time, and his skill is definitely way better than it was when he's more of a complete Zorro than he was when he tried to steal the horse. But you get to see kind of what Zorro is, which is he's the superhero, but he's also kind of like, I mean, he's stealthy, like kind of like a spy, and then he's really good with the sword. I mean, there's a lot of layers to a superhero type character in 1821 or 1841, which is technically, I guess, what this is happening. And he takes on basically this whole little small army that this mansion has, and does escape, even though they do have a sensual sword duel first,
which took on for quite some time.
I mean, I don't know how long most sensual sword duels take, but.
Well, I think it was just
good for
long enough so they could be sensual. That's how long it takes.
Yeah, that's how long it takes.
I mean, because now again, at the very last time, whenever Zorro slices her clothing off, her hair doesn't get touched. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you're where he was cutting the clothing, she would have got a haircut too. But it is PG-13, so they had to make sure things parts were covered up. That's for sure.
He's very good with his sword.
And Dom Montero, obviously, this shows where he didn't care about her at all, because there she was, I mean, practically naked, and he was still worried about
trying to get
Zorro, and he was very vigorous,
Yes.
very vigorous.
And quickly before we go to the next paragraph, because we're already running long, we get the 1800s version of a car chase with the horses, where he's
is that in it? Yeah, that is.
Yeah, takes them out one by one, and then he's riding two horses like skis, which is
impressive.
Yes,
it is very
riding like
impressive.
skis, riding backwards, jumping over a just happened to be tree limb going across the tree trunk going across the road. Which there's a road there for so long, but yet that tree is crossed it. Nobody's like taking it out yet.
Hey, they don't have chainsaws, okay? They only have axes.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read the next two paragraphs so we could just discuss the end of the movie in total. But terrified of Santa Anna's retribution if he discovers that he is being paid with his own gold, Montero decides to destroy the mine along with all of its workers so that he can better hide all the evidence. Diego tells Alejandro to release the workers on his own so he can reclaim Elena. Alejandro sets off feeling betrayed by Diego's vendetta. Diego corners Montero at the hacienda and reveals his identity, demanding Elena be brought to them to hear the whole truth. Montero then arrests him. While being taken away, Diego tells Elena the name of the flower she recognized upon her arrival in California, convincing her that he is her real father. She releases Diego from his cell. They proceed to the mine where Alejandro and Diego respectively defeat and kill Love and Montero. Elena and Alejandro free the workers before explosives go off and find Diego mortally wounded. He makes peace with Alejandro before dying, passing the mantle of Zorro to him, and gives his blessing for Alejandro and Elena's prospective marriage. All right, so it's kind of a weird, we get kind of this semi-final battle, and then we go, back a little bit, and then we go to the actual final battle, which is kind of a way to do it, but hey, it worked out. Dang it, I didn't write any notes on this.
I liked how the fear of Santa Anna finding out, which again, brilliant plan. Hey, we're going to pay you off with your own gold that you don't know you have, but don't tell anybody. We can't let you know, or we're hosed. And just whenever they lost the map, the whole entire thing of finding the map, because they were scared to death of Santa Anna. Which is one of the things I really liked about these parts coming on.
So, my whole thing about like I said earlier, the mine would have worked great if he had done it in a more ethical way of mining the actual gold. Like he probably could have got away with everything, and Zorro wouldn't have blown the mine up.
Remember, this is the guy that imprisoned the guy for 20 years and took his daughter and
yeah. Well, and I get it plays into it.
I don't think ethics is necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think ethics is in his code.
But this is still not a guy that you want running California. I mean,
no.
So he's got to be stopped, no matter if he's paying people to do it or using slaves. I mean,
but my big question here is his goal is blow everything up. Destroy it, right?
Yes,
buddy. What do you think's going to happen with the remnants of the explosion? There's still a mine there. It's just blown up.
But nobody knows where the mine is right now. So hopefully, by the time you pay off Santa Anna, so Santa Anna can pay for something to go fight the Mexican-American War, that now you have taken over California, and then you can start to build stuff up to help protect yourself. So he wants to get the gold, get Santa Anna out of the way, have Santa Anna be more involved with Texas area and get him away from California. So that way he can take over California, and it looks like Oregon and Washington also. I don't know why. It's completely different areas, but and so that's, again, the main thing was find a way to get Santa Anna out of there, because again, Santa Anna too is Mexican, not true blue Spanish blood.
Yeah,
and
and I get that.
There is that separation.
I don't think it's erasing as much evidence as he thinks it is. I think all it takes is one person coming to Santa Ana and being like, "Hey, you remember how you were paid off by this guy in California? Let me come show you something." and like just going and showing the destroyed mind, like showing where it was and showing how fresh it is. I just, to me, it didn't seem like a very. I think it was a very. I don't know. I guess in a spur of the moment, like it kind of makes sense. Like, if you're panicking, like we'll just destroy everything. I think it makes sense.
Also, I always thought it was funny that, like, I mean, to cover all this up, you would think you need a really big blast, and they're just at the
Hmm.
top after he's already lit the fuse. Like, hey, hurry it up, like,
Yeah.
Which is crazy. There was a big blast, but yet again, like you said, they're just at the top. You know,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't. But I did want to go back. We did kind of skip over. We do, where Diego goes to the hacienda and kind of, we find out Elena finds out who her real dad is. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that's got to be, um, yeah, that's a
It's
lot
a
of.
pretty life altering event.
Yeah, so now you're like, okay, so because you got to put yourself in her shoes. Okay, this man is not my real father, but he's the one that raised me. Like, you can't. I feel like that's hard to just cast aside, and we see
yeah, you
that
can't
later.
erase 20 years. You can't erase 20 years.
We see
Yeah,
that
it
later when
happened.
Diego's about to kill him, and she steps in. But at the same time, it's like, okay, this is my real father. Then you get the
Hmm.
realization, oh, this guy took me from my real father, and then it's like, so all you're if you're a 20-year-old woman and you're having to process all of this, I mean, that's a lot.
I mean, I get, and I especially see the like when she jumps in front of him to save him. Like, I think it shows like how much she really did care for him and really
Yeah.
thought that he
And
was
I'm
her
sure
father for
that,
so many years.
look, we go through this, and obviously he's the villain of the story, but he's probably your traditional. I mean, he's a bad guy because, like, he does what he's doing to
Oh
slaves, and
yeah,
he's not good to the people that he ruled over. But at the same time, I'm sure he was a good father to her.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's not like one of those easy things where, like, oh, this guy was so mean to me my whole life. I can't, oh, I'm
Hmm.
so glad I have a new father. Like, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
tough situation to be in.
I mean, she trained him. He trained her in swords play from the time that she was what 3, 4, 5 years old, whatever it was that she said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know what you're laughing at, but we're just gonna go on. We get to the final battle. We get two great sword fights between Zorro and Captain Love, and then Diego and Montero.
Hmm.
I really like the scene where he jumps down and he sees Love, and they have that, like, I don't know what you call it, Western type showdown music in the background. And he pulls his sword
Hmm.
out, and the sun goes across it. That's another great visual. I don't know. I get
Oh yeah.
I like little things like that. It makes it cool to me.
Yeah, there were a lot of good action parts to this. A good job of piecing the two different fights together,
Hmm.
like you said. But the only thing I didn't like was whenever he rode the shovel down. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. I mean, I mean, at least make it look like it's not tied to your boot, as you're
Hmm.
going down. But that's a little nitpick thing. But again, the fights, again, the sword play and the sword fights were really good. And then you combine the two when Montero was trying to shoot at Diego. Also, I mean,
At Alejandro.
at Alejandro while they were going too. I thought they did a good job of that. And like you said, that when Zorro jumped onto the where the gold was being brought up, and that whole entire fight. That's where that line by Love came from. What that he liked his way he fought because his brother would have already killed himself. Part was like, eesh.
Okay, so here's my question, I'm still confused. I've seen this maybe I don't know how many times, but it still confuses me. So it's like he knows who this is, right? But I feel like when Alejandro takes his mask off, he gets like a look in his eyes, like, oh, it's you, and I'm just confused by that. And maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but I just always felt like he had that look in his eyes, like, oh, I can't believe it's you. But like at the same time, he's talking about his brother, and I've just always been confused by that.
I
So I don't know
think
if
he's
I don't
been.
know if he I don't know if he thought the Zorro was, so he didn't think Alejandro was, so he knew Zorro was Joaquin's brother, but he didn't think Alejandro was Joaquin's brother anymore. And then that's the only thing that I guess I could come up with.
See, I was thinking he knew that Alejandro was the nobleman Alejandro, but he didn't know that Alejandro was Zorro. But that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense either. Yeah,
See,
that was kind of confusing.
Mhm.
the only thing I can think of is he thinks that Zorro. He knows that Zorro is Joaquin's brother, the guy. He's the other brother that he's been chasing. But for whatever reason, he decide. I guess when they have their meeting, and he's like Murrieta's brother and not, and then he drinks out of the cup. So I guess he decides that Alejandro is not
That may have
Joaquin's
thrown him
brother.
off the trail right there.
Joaquin's brother. So that's the only thing to me that could possibly make sense.
Yeah,
Every time I watch this, I think about that and it confuses me.
yeah, that's probably the best explanation. Was that right there?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
anyways, he gets stabbed with a sword and then gets a whole thing of gold dropped on him. It's probably
Pretty sucky way to die.
Yeah, probably better ways to go. And then they somehow get all the people out with a hammer and.
That whole thing where she's shooting the locks and they just magically come open, and then she just takes the butt of the gun and then just
Even the hammer, I was like, "Are you really telling me you're getting that with one swing of the hammer?"
No, and then
Zorro,
if you notice,
Zorro did right. Zorro can do that.
Yeah, I know.
Well, if you notice when it happened, it didn't actually break the lock. It just pulled the keeper off of the wood.
Hey, that sounds smart.
I mean, it works, but I'm like,
you had all those people break the wood. Just all of y'all start kicking the wood.
How many wood windows did Zorro bust through in this movie? 3, 4, 5, and you're telling me that 20 people in a wood jail cell can't push through it? I mean,
if they learned anything from Finding Nemo, just everybody swim upstream together, and then that would break the wood.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, they're in the middle of the desert. This wood's got to be pretty dry. Like, it's not that strong.
Well, wait. So we get they save everybody, and then we go. By the way, they save everybody and the blast goes off, but then when they go back to the top where Diego's dying, and apparently the blast goes outward, not upward.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
they go back buried in the cave. Okay.
They go back to the top, and he's dying, so they get their last words, and Dakota wonders if he's going to make it back for the sequel.
You don't know, man. It's the true question of the movie.
Yeah, I can. This isn't Fast and Furious. I can assure you, he's not coming back. But it is funny. He's like,
they're a little behind if they're on Fast and Furious track.
He gives his blessing for them to marry, and it would be funny if they were like, oh, I really think of
not
her
marrying. Sorry,
more of a friend.
Yeah,
yeah.
But we find. I guess I'll read the last paragraph. It says, sometime later, Alejandro and Elena are married and have rebuilt Diego's hacienda. Alejandro tells his infant son Joaquin, whom they named after Alejandro's brother, of Don Diego's deeds as Zorro. So,
good little wrap up.
That's the end of the movie. I keep thinking every time we do one of these movies, I'm like, this is probably not going to be a long episode, and then we go longer.
I think we need to redefine how long our episodes are. An hour and 15 minutes.
I think an hour and a half long is long.
Yes, and then so that's one thing I think we have to figure out, that we're going an hour and 15 minutes because now we're not just going over the movies. We're talking about other stuff and bringing it in, which I think is probably more interesting, at least for me. It is on some of the movies. So,
not to like spoil the next movie. If you do want to go watch it, Dakota, or I don't know if you've seen it, Ernie.
I have. I just don't remember.
It's not bad. It's not nearly as good as this one, but it's all right. But Alejandro does take Elena's. Well, actually, they both take Diego's last name. Yeah, so he's Alejandro de la Vega in the next movie.
No,
which I think part of that is part because he becomes a Don, and I don't get the whole Don thing. I know that was a thing.
I think it was like a governor almost.
Yeah, it's like some kind. I don't. I have to go.
Well, I wouldn't say like a governor. I'm thinking more like a regional.
There were people that owned land. I know that, which back then made you pretty powerful and wealthy.
No.
But anyway,
so Kamei made a comment at the end of this movie was that somehow this ties into Spy Kids.
What?
I have no idea.
Well,
We
and Antonio
Oh,
Banderas.
Banderas is in Spy Kids, but I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
mean,
how
I
this.
knew that, but
Your wife. Look, your wife. You know what? I'm just not gonna say it.
I mean, that's on par with Willy Wonka and Snowpiercer being in the same universe.
I have
If
no clue, no idea where this came from. I didn't understand what she was saying.
Yes,
I thought I would ask.
yes. Yeah, you can go tell her that's about as crazy as her ordering a bacon cheeseburger without bacon.
Look, we've been
no,
together for
don't do
almost
that.
11 years now.
Do not do that. I'm telling you right now, don't do that. That was just he's getting you in trouble if you try to do that.
Oh, I know he's getting me in trouble. He's always trying to get me in trouble.
Don't worry, I'll get myself in trouble too.
You see in
I
our group
know.
chat.
We
Now,
don't
yeah,
need
we
help.
know.
We don't need any help getting in trouble with our wives. We do it very quite easily by
Oh,
ourselves. Thank you.
I was talking about his wife. His wife will kill me just as much as my wife will kill me.
Yeah, this isn't about to be a Dakota getting in trouble. This is about to be a why were you listening to Suggs conversation.
Well, anyways, so that wraps it up. The Mask of Zorro. I guess that means we need to go into our rankings, right? And then what we do next? I think I asked this
Yes.
every episode. I guess I will go first since I think that's how we decided. Like I said earlier, I've seen this movie a ton since I was a kid. Yeah, well, I don't want to say maybe not a ton, but I've seen it a lot. Is it a top 10 movie in my mind that I would have one of my top 10 favorite movies? No, probably not even top 20, but it's just fun. It's rewatchable. It's got great action. It's got great characters. It's got romance. It's just it's funny at parts, and I really enjoy this movie. I'm gonna give it an 8. I feel like an 8 is a solid. It's a solid movie. I would watch it again. I would recommend it. Is it a world beater movie that I think you absolutely have to see? No, but it's fun. I think I watched it with Dad. I don't know when the last time he had seen it was. I know he'd seen it before, but he was very engrossed in it. The whole way. So and he's seen it before. So I think that just goes to show you it's a solid movie. It's rewatchable. So I think an 8 is a pretty good score.
I thought it was enjoyable too. I didn't think it was enjoyable as you, but I again, I liked Antonio Banderas in it.
Mhm.
The movie was okay. Again, and here's one of the things I've started. Whether this is right or wrong, is I've kind of started looking at what I've ranked other movies that we've done, and I'm like, okay, this is what I ranked this. Again, I don't know if that's the right way or wrong way to
No,
do that,
I
but
feel like it's probably not the right way, but I do it too.
yeah,
So
again,
it's
so
just
that's
it's
one.
just hard not to.
Yeah, uh,
Like I wish
and
I could go back and give Twister a lower score that I gave it because I look back now and I'm like, was that really an 8.5? That I gave it, but
so I am going with a 7. Again, it's enjoyable. Uh, I probably won't watch it again for another 20, 30 years. But I mean, again, I liked it. So there you go.
uh, again, before Dakota, I think ever since I'm a kid, I've always had a stickler for heroes in costumes, whether that be a comic book or whether when I was a kid it was Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles or just heroes in mask and costumes or secret identities. I've always had a love for that, so I think that definitely bumps it up on my scale.
You don't have to justify your score.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, like, you know, I'm giving why I think I would give it the score I give it. But anyways, Dakota.
So I tend to really enjoy these movies like this a lot. Um, like really like all of the Pirates movies are some of my favorite movies, like of all time. And just this kind of like this. Do you have a serious side? Do you have a comical side? And I really enjoy these type of movies. And you know, I could easily go back and watch these movies. It's one of those I haven't seen this a whole lot, so I didn't know a lot of what was going on. I think this might have been the first time I've ever actually sat down and watched the movie all the way through. Um, but I could easily see myself like if it's on TV, like picking it, and like just stopping and watching it and just enjoying it and having fun with it, you know. And I think I'm gonna give it a good 8.25
Woo.
because that's a I think I'm telling you, I really enjoyed this movie. Like, I really thought it was just a good all around movie. The acting I thought was really good in it. It's not some blockbuster. It's not some movie you have to see, but like it's just, to me, like, all around uh, the writing was good in it. The acting was good in it. I feel like just everything was. It was just a good, well rounded movie in my opinion.
All right. Well, so that was 8 for me, 7 for Ernie, 8.25 for Dakota. That averages out to a 7.75, which is a nice weird number like Ernie likes. Probably
Yes,
not super weird, but
no, that puts Mask of Zorro 7 out of. By the way, this was
our
y'all's
10th.
10th episode. So
Yes, we forgot to mention
this
that.
is number
Oh yeah,
7
it is.
on the list, between Major League at number 6 and Beverly Hills Cop number 8. Ironically, again, Star Wars and Princess Bride, the two highest I think that have on IMDb,
Yeah,
are the two lowest that we have
two
on here.
lowest ones.
So we're not trying to play the crowds,
Yeah.
if you're wondering. So
Well, and grouping, as far as we know, we go with our 5 groups, which is the highest being Blockbuster, then Popcorn Worthy, Cult Classic, Matinee Only, and Straight to Video. This lands us in, I believe, a Cult Classic, right?
yes,
Yeah.
So we've got plenty of the Cult Classic and Popcorn Worthies. Don't we think we have? That's all we got, right? We don't have.
Yeah.
We don't. So
Pretty
we're still
even
searching for our first Blockbuster, and we also don't have a movie yet that is a matinee only or
yeah, we don't
straight
have
to
any
video.
we don't have any cellar dwellers yet, and that'll be the question, is when we decide to pick one that's a cellar dweller that we
I
know is going to be a cellar
I have a
dweller.
prediction that the first movie that gets matinee only or straight to video will be a movie picked by Ernie. I just have that feeling.
Wow. If
I
it
don't know.
is, it's because I did it on purpose.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, and I can see that happening. I just have that feeling.
Don't think that hadn't gone through my head either. With some of
so.
them.
Here's the thing about what we're doing. There's only so many movies that came out between the '60s and the 2000s, and
Yeah,
the
there's
year
only
2000.
there's only so many movies. There's like hundreds.
I know there's hundreds, but there's only so many good movies. Eventually, there's going to come a point where we've done all of the good movies, and we're going to have to start picking worse movies. Like, eventually, it's going to take place. It's going to happen.
Well, some of them I want to pick, but I'll tell you, this goes into my little secrets of, if I can't watch them free on streaming, then I'm not going to pick them. So, and that's where I've kind of found on some of mine, because, well, I'm cheap. Now, if we were monetizing this and making money off this, then
It'd be a
maybe I
little
would use it
different,
as a
yeah.
tax write off. But we hadn't got that popular yet.
Yeah.
Hint, rate us as a 5, like us
poor-
when you're listening to this.
Poor Ernie, we've picked some movies that aren't probably free on streaming, so he's had to go rent it or see if he has it on
That's
DVD.
hard.
I did have to. I did watch Friday Night Lights on DVD, so because I actually have that one.
See, I'm a physical media collector, so like I don't mind buying the Blu-rays for it. I actually don't mind having copies of the movie, whether it be a digital or a physical copy of the movie. And there's a couple of platforms where you can buy like movies anywhere, and a Vudu at home. You can actually buy the movie and be able to stream it at any point, regardless of streaming services. If it's on streaming services or not, you have a copy of the movie you can watch. And I like that aspect of, I guess, owning the media, like owning some part
Yeah.
of it.
Well, not to drag it on anymore. So another great episode again. This is our 10th episode, so we're really excited about that.
Mhm.
We think. Oh wait, the last I looked, we had 161 total downloads, listens, whatever you want to call it.
Cha-ching.
163. So I don't know what that averages out to per episode, but it's a lot more per episode than I thought we would have.
16.3.
Well, if you only do 9 episodes though, because this is the 10th episode.
Well, that's only my 9th episode, but it's y'all's 10th. So,
Well, I mean, yeah, but we haven't released the 10th episode yet.
oh, that's
18
right. Oh,
18
See, that's why I'm
downloads.
not good at math.
18
Yeah.
downloads per episode.
That's
So-
why I married a math teacher.
But
Yeah,
anyways,
somebody
so-
to do the math for you.
Yes.
our next episode, Dakota, is it still going to be what you said it was going to be, or have you changed your mind?
No, I think the pick that I'm going to go with is Back to the Future.
So it was
to the
it
Future.
was what you decided. You didn't change your mind. That's all you had to say.
Couldn't remember what I said last week. Honestly.
I should have just thought out a movie I wanted to watch. But then again, I really want to watch Back to the Future again, so I guess that just works.
Well, I remember it was either Back to the Future or the other one, and I couldn't remember what I had said.
Anyways,
But
yes,
I'm really excited to watch it again this week.
Yes, it's everybody has to see Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But all right, so I guess that wraps up this week's episode. You guys got anything to add?
I think this asks the question: is next week going to be our first blockbuster?
That's a good question.
Predictions? Yeah, I don't know. Tune in to see. Or
Tune
to
in
hear,
to see us talk
listen.
talk an hour and 15 minutes about Huey Lewis.
All right. Well, I guess that will end our episode. Unless y'all have anything to add.
Nope. We'll see you at the movies.
See you next week.